What's up guys, the StrongBoys19 here and welcome to a new album review. Today I'm going to be reviewing the latest album from the band Meshuggah, entitled Immutable. Now this is the band's latest album to be released and the very first album not to be released through Nuclear Blast Records. This is an album that was released through Atomic Fire Records, and this is the follow-up to their longest gap of any new album material in 6 years, following 2016's The Violent Sleep of Reason. Now, I really enjoy quite a lot of Meshuggah, and these guys are, in any shapes and size, one of the heaviest and more catastrophically mechanical and, I would say, unique sounds of metal. They are no strangers for many people citing them as one of the pioneers in the djent genre, as well as the incorporations on a bit of that heavier side of prog metal, avant-garde type of aesthetics in the band's way of writing. And with the teasing tracks of the singles of The Abysmal Eye and Light the Shortening Fuse, I was really interested to dive into this album. And for me, I am quite a bit of a fan of the band myself, because I really enjoy albums like Nothing to Obscene, and even really did review Kolos when I started reviewing albums. So when it comes to the overall anticipation for this record, I will have to be personally fair and say that while this album is anticipated, I actually don't cite this as one of the band's best works across their discography, but it does have a lot of merit on which I am going to be diving into this album even deeper. The first track on the album, Broken Cog, opens on this sludgy grunt of an opening guitar riff with syncopation, lead guitar lines as the build-up continues, but the build-up is in a big loop of repetition onto the drumming patterns and some softer spoken words as it moves along. But unfortunately, the track is not very expansive to make a different impression when the song was going forward. There's a tiny bit of groove into what's going on here, but it's not really all that memorable. The second track of the single, The Abysmal Eye, a lot of double bass pedaling action, tons of alternate picking, and making a different flavour into this style, bringing in more of a dramatic edge into the music. It's more simplistic than the whole complex polyrhythmic arrangements that a lot of Meshuggah's music can really be that way, but it still has these multiple layers on guitar sounds, and it makes a strong presence of prominent vocals and the presentation. It is more of a brooding sound which involves a complex solo, and I find that this is more of a dominated track that I really enjoy quite a bit more. Light the Shortening Fuse, however, is much more of a greater track to me. It is a song that gets better the more I listen to this song, as it becomes more memorable, and the delivery was pushing things further and making a well-crafted hook, a booming, stomping, bigger sound, and it does attract myself with the vibe and the presentation than the first couple of songs. Tons of really destructive, bashful drumming hits, and there's a bit more variety onto the writing. Phantoms, there's a ton of these advanced time signatures at the beginning part of the song, bringing in more drama and some haunting sounds in the background when you hear the main parts of the song. It goes along with the punishing menace of the aggression. It is a song that has a lot of brilliant chemistry and the chaos, while these big distorting screams bring in a lot of that intensity even further, and I really enjoyed this one quite a lot. Ligature Marks is a song that they decide to take things down on a brutal breakdown djent type of flavour, but it brings in so much more action into making it a sinister and abrasive nature. Simplified guitar notes across the fretboard, and the drums on this track were very well paced, and the destruction of the anger, very chaotic, vicious powerhouse, and I think this is one of the other strong numbers. And same goes on to the next song of God He Sees in Mirrors. There's a lot of energy into this track because it was just all manic right from the start, and there's a lot of performance. It's like that the bass sounds incredible because it's thick, it's hard, and the balance on the mixing was really good. It really does provide the sound of the band at returning into more complexity and the heaviness. So I really think that this is another one that I do enjoy quite a bit. The longest track on the record, the 9+ minute song of They Move Below, opens beautifully on these slow, clean guitars with a lot of different textures into the sound that is incredibly atmospheric, and it paints itself very comfortably. But then as the band moves back in, the progression musically and momentally, it really creates, to me, some of the other unique vibes onto Meshuggah's way of writing, because this is a type of composition that is quite as ominous and as impending as it really provides things. Kaleidoscope is another track that I do enjoy very, very much so, because right at the start, there's a lot of that faster tempo, it's bombastic. Mentality on this song is full of these catastrophic, double-tracked vocals, and making this just as a powerful, maddening composition. The tightness, because that is the type of thing that I really enjoy on a lot of Meshuggah, and Kaleidoscope is extremely tight and as a very prolific number. But for me, the weakest numbers on the record, like onto the track of Black Cathedral, is personally worthless. It basically is an alternate type of picking black metal type of style, and it just does not feel anything in between, or nothing much more original that it should have been, because it's very much like a bland, lackluster, without making anything as a crafted piece of tracks like these. Like onto the next track, I Am the Thirst, which is incredibly subpar, inconsistent. I find it to be bleaker than anything else, because it's a song that has some ability, but it's really not as fulfilling. The song The Faultless, however, is incredibly dominating, just tearing things up into the mood and brutality once again, and the violence of the vocals really are so good on this track. The melody and syncopation, that's optimism, because there's a lot of advanced textures while there's a lot of stuff going on. A very good number, because I like the adventurous direction this track does make. And onto the last track on the record, which is basically like onto the track of They Move Below. It's another instrumental, but I find to finalize the album in this returning back into the clean way, I actually quite like it. It is beautiful to hear Meshuggah into changing the tone from being all destructive and really striking as possible, and to lower things down. I personally think that Immutable by Meshuggah is a pretty good album, but not for me to cite this as one of the strongest albums in the band's discography. That's personally all I would like to say on Immutable by Meshuggah. Let me know what you think of this record in the comments down below. And I'm going to give this record a 7.5 out of 10. It just does not actually quite match up as brilliantly for me as one of the better Meshuggah albums, because I am more of a fan onto the earlier stuff. But I would say you can check it out, and I am glad that it did deserve the acclaim as Meshuggah really gets. Thank you guys for watching, and I'll keep you guys posted for more videos in the near future.